أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will continue with the third point. This is the third point of the 18th word. In my book, it's page 242. We started with the first point, and there we try to, remember ourselves, remember our reality, what we can do, what we cannot do, what we have, what we don't have. That's what I remember from the first point. We touched upon our free will. We touched upon how we see reality through our free will, and how our baseless claims, like our false claims of ownerships, authority or over anything, how they give us suffering, and how revelation, speech of Creator, comes into play as a guidance to help us, to save us from the suffering. And then in the second point, we continued with our interpretation of the reality, how we see it, how it really is. And through our personal journey of understanding the reality, how we can reach the Maker, how we can reach all the beautiful names behind everything we see. That's what I remember from the second point. And inshallah, this week, today, with the third point, we will make another connection with the reality. We will remind ourselves that we have a perfect connection with the reality, a perfect fit with the reality, what is outside, what is inside. The beautiful aspect of the reality, and some strange way it will lead us to prophethood.
I joined late, so can you explain what do you mean by the reality of what?
To be honest, for me, when it comes to such things like reality or truth, I'm kind of a simple-minded man. With reality, only thing I mean is whatever out there that I experience. I see birds, this is my reality. I feel cold, this is my reality. I drop a ball, it falls with a certain speed, that's my reality. That's what I understand from reality. I usually do not load like heavy meanings to terms like reality. Like what is real, what is unreal. Usually I don't care that much. But again, this is because I'm a simple-minded man. So I'm sorry for disappointing you, Asim.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, please.
So, bird or cold, which is really cold outside. Cold is something that we experience. What is the reality of the cold? Or what is the reality of the bird?
You asking me, or
Yeah,
I told you I'm a simple-minded man.
I'm asking you, sir.
Okay.
If it was a Turkish discussion, I would make a joke, but go ahead.
No, it was like maybe, I don't know, the third question. I think I asked the questions to express that my definition would be slightly different than yours.
So any word like reality
the definition of it is, I think, less important than the meaning of it. And meaning, this is often connected to usage. So you can use it in many different things, but I think from your Birkan's initial comments, what I took was that not only that, so he meant like reality in the sense of his using is in the sense of what we experience, like he said, what all the things around us, and then in Osman's usage, it's the meaning or a satisfactory meaning of what we experience that would be included in reality. So, it depends on the usages. But I think it's whether it is the meaning we are referring to of what we experience as included in, or a satisfactory meaning, or just simply things that we experience. Whenever a person uses that word, it would generally be clear what they are referring to. Are they including the meaning of what they experience, or so from Birkan's little introduction summary, it seemed clear to me that he is not including yet the idea of ultimately satisfactory meaning of that experience, but he's saying reality in the sense of what we see. And because he said of that, then revelation comes to teach us, guide us about it. So yeah, I think if we pay attention to how somebody is using the term, then we can perhaps avoid the question, that. So, and we can hopefully move on, because if we start discussing all the various usages of reality and which is correct and which is more, it would, for me at least, I think if I pay attention to what Birkan said, it was understandable that he doesn't yet include what the ultimate sort of meaning would be, satisfying meaning, just the things around us. And so yeah, I personally, I would like us to carry on and not stop in the discussion of what reality means.
Jazakallah khair. So if there are other comments, we can hear. Otherwise, we can continue with reading the third point.
Okay. So the 18th word, third point, page 241. If you do love God, follow me. God will love you. If you do love God, follow me. God will love you. Quran chapter 3, verse 31. Since in the universe there is observably beauty of art, and this is certain, it necessitates with a certainty as definite as actually witnessing it, the messengership of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In the universe there is observably beauty of art, and this is certain. It necessitates with a certainty as definite as actually witnessing it, the messengership of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. For the beauty of art and finely ornamented forms of these beautiful creatures show that their fashioner possesses a significant will to make beautiful and powerful desire to adorn. Their fashioner possesses a significant will to make beautiful and powerful desire to adorn. And this will and desire show that the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination towards the perfections of the art he displays in his creatures. And this love and inclination require to be turned towards and concentrated on man, the most enlightened and perfect individual among beings. And this love and inclination require to be turned towards and concentrated on man, the most enlightened and perfect individual among beings. And man is the conscious fruit of the tree of creation. And the fruit is the most comprehensive and furthest part, the part with the most general view and universal consciousness. The part with the most general view and the universal consciousness. And the one with the most comprehensive view and universal consciousness should be the most elevated and brilliant individual who will meet with and be addressed by the beauteous maker, by that beauteous maker, who will expend his universal consciousness and comprehensive view entirely on the worship of his maker, who will expend his universal consciousness and comprehensive view entirely on the worship of his maker, the appreciation of his art, and offering thanks for his bounties. Now, two signboards, two spheres appear. One is a magnificent, well-ordered sphere of dominicality. One is a magnificent, well-ordered sphere of dominicality and exquisitely fashioned, bejeweled signboard of art. The other is an enlightened and illumined sphere of worship, and broad and comprehensive signboard of thought and reflection, admiration, thanks, and belief. The first signboard, or the first sphere, one is a magnificent, well-ordered sphere of dominicality, an exquisitely fashioned, bejeweled signboard of art. The other is an enlightened and illumined sphere of worship, and broad and comprehensive signboard of thought and reflection, admiration, thanks, and belief. This second sphere acts with all its strength in the name of the first sphere. Thus, it will be clearly understood how closely connected with the Maker is the leader of the second sphere, which serves all the Maker's art-cherishing aims, and how beloved and acceptable he is in his eyes. Is it at all reasonable to accept that the magnificent fashioner of these fine creatures, who so loves his art and even takes into consideration all the tastes of the mouth, would remain indifferent towards his most beautiful creature, who in a clamor of admiration and appreciation, which makes the throne and earth reverberate, and in a litany of thanks and exaltation, which brings to ecstasy the land and the sea, is worshipfully turned towards him? Would he not speak with him and want to make him his messenger, and wish his commendable conduct to pass to others? It is possible that he would not speak with him and not make him his messenger? By no means. Verily, the religion before God is Islam. Verily, the religion before God is Islam. Quran chapter 3 verse 19. And Muhammad is the messenger of God. Quran chapter 48 verse 29. That is the end of the third point. The verse he quotes in the beginning, if you do love God, follow me, God will love you. It's a pretty loaded verse that really needs to be examined, because what does it mean to love? Well, who is this God? And then what does it mean to love this God? And then how does one follow him? And then, well, I'm guessing follow me means follow the messenger in this scenario. And then how does this following of messengership necessitate that God will love the one who follows the messenger? And this is, I think, what he's trying to explain in this point. the necessity of messengership, and why one who follows the way of prophecy will inevitably, or within that way, find a mutual love between him and his creator. And he explains first that if one is able to look at the universe and see most certainly, and he says it's certain that there is beauty in creation, there are all these qualities that are apparent in creation or within the universe, and man possesses the consciousness to be aware of that. He's saying that that in and of itself necessitates the messengership of Muhammad. And the reason being is that how can it be that there exists, this wondrous beauty, and that no conscious creature, can, with his entirety of being, appreciate, recognize, appreciate and thank the source of those qualities to the highest degree, one whose very being is concerned with the maker of these things. And in that way, does he say it necessitates an individual, or really the entity of messengership, the institution of messengership, and in this case, Muhammad's messengership, who must be the one who reaches the limit, in a way, of that human potentiality. He realizes what is the complete human potentiality within, and serves as an example to all others who are in need of recognizing the maker of these things that they are so enamored by. And I like his example, how he says, the man is the fruit of the tree of creation, in a way implying that you cannot separate man, or in the example he provides here, Muhammad's messengership, from the universe. The two are intertwined together. And the fruit being kind of the culmination of the existence of the tree, or really the universe's culmination, or its entire point of being brought into existence, such that an individual can gaze upon this universe and recognize its beauteous maker, not necessarily recognize its beauteous maker. And then he uses another example, how there are two spheres. The first sphere being the signboard, which is really the universe. It's a signboard pointing to its maker, how it's fashioned, adorned, how this reflects the elevated qualities, the absolute qualities of its maker. And the second sphere being that, tied to this first sphere, being a being who recognizes that signboard, who appreciates that signboard, and thanks the one who made it into a signboard, made the universe into a reflection of his qualities. And then lastly, he says, how can it not be that the universe constructed in such a way? How can it not be that this maker of this universe would not speak to his most perfect creation, which is man? Because man's perfection is in his consciousness, his comprehensive universal consciousness. How can he not speak to him so that he may draw man closer to him? It's not possible for him to do anything otherwise. So no matter which way you look at the universe, it not only points to a certain worldview, or as the verse he quotes, an Islamic worldview, that being that the universe must be made, and it's made in a way that reflects its maker's qualities, but that the only way that one is able to go about seeing it this way, having this worldview, is only by the messengership of Muhammad. The two cannot be separated. And the universe exists in reality because of his messengership. And if there was not his messengership, what would be the point of the creation of the cosmos? So that's what I took away from this third point.
Alhamdulillah, very beautiful summary. Anyone who wants to add, subtract something?
I think I'm going to share my understanding of the subject, but this is going to be like thinking large, so I may not be consistent with my thought process. What is new to me in this 18th word altogether, especially specifically the third point, before, like, I never seen the link between the previous points, like first point and second point. And I never actually look for any kind of connection between those. I was just always taking that they are like separate, individual, independent, like points, that different verses that he's studying. But something attracted my attention this time, like when we are studying this. In the first point, as far as I understand, like he studied whether there is evil exists, like in terms of like existence. And in the second point, and in the first point, he established that like there is no such thing exists. In this end, like whatever we perceive something to be like bad or evil is because of our lack of capacity in terms of like our own nature, or in terms of the nature out there, like in the universe. Because of our lack of capacity to perceive the good, whatever we experience seems to be evil for us. And in the second point, he took that one step further, and he said that by giving different examples, he said that you experience something or perceive something to be evil because of your own selfishness, and it is about your approach, not because there is some such thing exists. As far as I understand, that's my take. So, and in the third point, he came to a point that if you do love God, follow me, God will love you.
May I add one small step
Go ahead.
to the first one? You also established that the creation is done completely by the Creator. Which, in addition to there is no evil, and everything is created by Him.
And everything is good
In the second one,
in terms of creation.
If He created everything, why is there those ugly things? In the second one, He says, no, everything is created by Him, and also everything is beautifully created by Him. Now that when you come to the third, you have arrived to the conclusion that everything is made by someone who makes everything beautiful.
Yes. So, like, that's what he talks about. I was going to mention that. So, that's why I was looking at the verse. Like, in the second point, who has created everything in the best way? So, that's what he studied. And then he came to the third point. If you do love God, follow me, God will love you. And when we're studying this verse, what he starts like with is like beauty and perfection. So, like, up until that point, you have already established that there is only beauty and perfection in the creation, and this is the the work of a creator, a perfect creator. So, if this is the case, then like, how do you understand the verse? If you do love God, follow me, and God will love you. And what I understand from this is like, it is in our nature by default that we are attracted to perfection and beauty. Whatever, like, the definitions might be different, but whatever you think that is beautiful, you are automatically attracted to it. You automatically love it. It's not like an extra step for you. And it, in actually many cases, it is out of your will, if you like. So you automatically talk about like love as soon as you experience the beauty and perfection. So if this is the case, and if God is the creator of the beauty and the perfection, that somehow like should automatically connected, like I should be connected with him in terms of that like loving relationship.
Again, may I just say one small thing? Since we are going on the same line, I don't want to take a separate time.
Go ahead, because like I am thinking loud as actually I am trying to express myself.
So in there, in the previous one, he was saying that the beauty of things starts appearing on the aspect of things that looks to its maker.
To creator.
So loving beauty means loving the creator, or the aspect that I'm getting attached to is the aspect that is related to the maker.
Understanding that, like whatever the beauty that I am like in love with is coming from him, so directing that love not to the things themselves, but directing to the like the true ownership of the beauty.
Because now your love to the beauty itself is because it is coming from him. Because previously, I was looking at the things that first appear ugly to me. I didn't love them. I started loving them once I start seeing the relation between the action and its maker. So my love or the beauty appears to me because of its relation with the maker. This was the topic of the previous one. So this is why there's not even an extra step of I love beauty, therefore I love its maker, not even this sort of a two-stage. The beauty that I love it because it's coming from him. Before, I was not able to see this relation. This is why I didn't like it. It was ugly. Now that I can see the relation, I start loving it. It starts becoming beautiful.
Right at that point, follow me, where messengers, like with that phrase, follow me, where messengership comes into play, like to the Suhail's point. At this point, I think it refers to the institution of the messengership. So, and what like messengership is in the light of the previous two topics, to looking at the creation from a perspective, a Quranic perspective, that you will be able to read everything in terms of in the name of his maker, its maker. That's what like messengership represents. Experiencing all the beauty in the creation and reading all that beauty in a way that will be in the name of the makers of the things. So that is what messengership is in this context. So when it says like if you do love God, if you do experience this like emotion of love, follow me, meaning that look at the creation from from that perspective, from that angle, that will connect you as a person to your maker. And as a result of that, when it says God will love you, which actually the love is already there in the creation, God is manifesting that already.
You will realize that
You will just you will be just like opening up your own channels to understand that if you go through that process and follow the footprints of the prophet and look at the creation under his teaching, you will realize that actually you are loved and that you didn't know about. So I think that was the end of it. Like there are some other things that I want to say about the text, but maybe we can discuss that when we get there.
So the point is not if I do this, is God going to love me? I don't know. How can I know unless I become God or God sit next to him and he tells me that, okay, yeah, I assure you that I love you. It's not this sort of assurance. Instead, it is if I follow these footprints, then I will recognize that I was being loved already.
Yes.
So in my perception, I would say yes, yeah, God loves me.
Then it is something experiential that you can actually confirm, because otherwise, like, if I tell you that, like, Birkan, if you love God, follow me and God will love you, this may be an like empty claim that, like, okay, first of all, how do I really love God? And how do I really know that, like, you are the true messenger of God? And how do I know that He loves me actually when I, like, do the things that you tell me to do? So, like, if it just made much more sense to me if we understand the subject in the light of the other two subjects. It's more like relatable, I would say.
I want to ask a question here. You're saying talking about beauty, but is there a difference between, or can anyone really speak about something beautiful externally, or can one only speak about something being beautiful because it is the work of a maker or a fashioner? That's what makes it beautiful. Are those two different things? Because I think that's why he says, observedly beauty of art, this is certain. Is he certain of it because it proceeds from its maker, or does he say that there is an external beauty out there?
No, I'm still, like, thinking about the question.
Yusuf, do you want to? Anyone wants to say it?
I think it's a real beauty out there, because if that is the stepping stone from which he will then move on to talk about things that pertain to unseen, he's inferring the necessity of the prophethood and necessity of the, not necessity, maybe not the best word, but he's driving that we are loved, and the maker wants to express his love to us on the basis of that beauty apparent in the universe. If beauty is something that we will only see afterwards, then it won't work as the stepping stone or the starting point. But having said that, this is the third point. So it comes after those 2 points, and there's connection. How do we see the beauty? Yes, there is beauty in the flower and the sunrise and the sunset and all of the ocean and so on. But then there's lots of things where we feel it's not beautiful enough, or it's ugly, it's not fair. So the first and second points have to come first, because so in that sense, if my glasses are completely dark, or I judge everything from its immediate relation to my wishes at that point, then yeah, lots of things can be found to be ugly. So it is partially depending on the perspective, right? So we need the first and second points of this chapter to get that perspective. But at the same time, it's not just the perspective. With that perspective, we're looking at a world that is exquisitely made. And then from there on, we're moving to see how this is possible through a maker that wants to make himself known to us with love. And of course, that maker will speak to us and so on.
Yeah, if I understood your question right, Suhail, I don't really know if you can really speak of the beauty independent of its maker. But at the same time, as far as I am concerned, universe, or the beauty that is manifested in the universe, is the only means that I have where I can experience the beauty. So yes, it is true that, like, if God is all good and everything comes from Him is good, and everything comes from Him beautiful, but at the same time, like, if you like, I am stuck in the universe. So that's the only means that I have where I can experience the beauty of the Creator. So I'm not sure if I'm making any sense, but
No, I agree with that, and Isra's point. I think my point was that what you said. I can't. I don't think you cannot separate beauty from a source of beauty, because if you do, I think if you speak about beauty independent of a source, then you can, in a way, speak of evil. Then, in a way, and then you see the universe in conflict, and you don't see the perfection or the exquisiteness of the existence of the universe. But if you attribute it to a source, or it must be attributed to a source, then your connection with the universe is not only beautiful, but it is beautiful because it precedes or is the work of a maker. And I think that's kind of the basis of messengership, because in this entire third point, as you mentioned, you connected with the other 2 points, there's no mention of dissatisfaction with how you perceive things or evil. It's only speaking about the art and the perfection of that art and how one is in communication and has a close relationship with that artist. So you can't. I don't think you can separate. It's not possible for, at least for me, to speak of this beauty without a source, because then you could say there's evil then too within the universe, when in truth, really no such thing exists. And that's why I think Nursi says this is certain. The universe cannot be anything other than beauty, because it's made by an absolute source.
So, and what I understand was that if we are to be 100% consistent, and we say that flower is beautiful in itself, but not God made it whatsoever, flower is beautiful in itself, this would be a huge contradiction. Without referring to the eternal source, there cannot be found any beauty whatsoever on earth. But this is for 100% consistency. On the other hand, as a human, without thinking at all, when I look at a flower, my instinct tells me that flower is beautiful. Flower starts becoming ugly to me when I realize that this flower is going to die, and I'm going to die, and I'm going into non-existence. Then even the beauty of flower would become a torture for me and ugliness for me, in this sense. So I cannot talk about real beauty without talking about an eternal source. As a human, it doesn't appear to be beautiful in this sense. But practically speaking, in data language, I guess we are not that much consistent in our thought process or our feelings. So I might be an unbeliever and still think that, or feel like I love flowers, flowers are beautiful. But yes, if we are to be very real or very true, yes, without referring to an eternal source, there wouldn't be any beauty whatsoever.
Because everything that you perceive to be beautiful becomes like contradictory to your own experience, that you are subjected to change and death.
Yes. So without eternity, I can personally not talk about anything beautiful from my point of view.
Makes sense.
And this is kind of what been discussed in the first point, right? He said the things that gives you pleasure, or things that you have with you as a source of pleasure, do you think you will be away from the suffering? That was the verse we started, right, in the first point. If you deny the createdness of things, suffering will find you. If you deny the createdness of the beauty, the ugliness will find you. And so I guess, as Faraz was saying at the beginning, even if we do not try to define things, even from the experience, like a just simple superficial experience, we know that as we try to reach the beauty, at the end we end up with ugliness. Once we start denying the createdness of the beauty, ugliness finds us. So I guess I can answer your question that way, like whether there's a beauty or not external, or even if I don't know what external beauty means, if you ask me, like, do you think there's a beauty? I would say, when I approach that something I think beautiful without a mindset of that thing being created, I will end up ugliness. That I can tell you from experience.
There's something else I want to say about this third point, which to me is kind of the brilliance of Nursi, is that he never, in this point, he never speaks about Muhammad as a man, or historicizes him. He makes he speaks about messengership of Muhammad, but not Muhammad in and of himself. So it's as if he's making a messengership really a practical, a historical entity for me, in that you can communicate with his messengership and see what his worldview really is. He doesn't portray him as some sort of authority figure, general politician. None of that. It talks about his humanity, and I think that's the only way to describe messengership, because if you portray it in the way that he does, that there is the universe, and as Osman said, it's meant to be read, then how can you speak about someone who reads it and is dead in a way? His messengership must be alive so that the universe can always be read, as he serving as a guide for it to be read at any point in history and for any individual. So I like that's the way he has described messengership in this point.
Another point, so we can read the first paragraph again. Okay, I'm going on. Since in the universe there is observed the beauty of art, and this is certain, it necessitates with a certainty as definite as actually witnessing it, the messengership of Muhammad, peace be upon him. For the beauty of art and finely ornamented forms of these beautiful creatures shows that their fashioner possesses a significant will to make beautiful and powerful, desire to adorn. A significant will to make beautiful and powerful desire to adorn. And this will and desire shows that the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination towards the perfections of the art he displays in his creatures.
This is a question. Is it just to say that if someone or I am not able to see the beauty in my experiences, it is futile to talk to that person about messengership?
I would say yes.
yeah, like based on his like premises, it sounds like that's something that needs to be established first with, like, in your own world at least. Like, let's forget about the other people. For us to like truly understand the messengership, like if we are not able to really like feel the perfection and the beauty, and really like establish all this like I should say like understanding like in your like mind, talking about messengership is going to be pretty much baseless.
Yeah, you're right. There has to be a desire in the individual to learn, to improve himself, right, or herself. Such as like if you see around you people who have educated themselves and then who graduate from school and then they move on with life successfully, right? And you look at them and you say, oh, I want to be like them. I want to also sign up at this school, right? There has to be that desire first, and then you can look for a school or a teacher. Lacking that desire, it doesn't, like, just as you wouldn't push a kid, or even if you pushed a kid to learn and do well at school, if there's no desire in the kid, nothing will happen, right? So the desire comes first.
Well, I'm going to present a counterpoint. For example, let's say you hate math, and then you have this great teacher who presents it in a different way, so you begin to understand math and maybe even love it. Could you see the point of a teacher presenting the universe differently? And if you see it as ugly, he presents it as a work of beautiful art.
Yes, but again, you need to see the beauty first, right? So, and that will then arouse in you the desire.
Well, but see, maybe you don't know how to see beauty in the art because you've never been shown how that's possible. That's my point with that example with the math teacher. Sometimes people, they come across teachers that, you hear it all the time, that they open up something to the student that they didn't realize. They begin to like reading or math or history or art that they never knew was possible because every teacher they had previous to that presented it in a way that was not, that was not honest or sincere to the thing they were presenting. It didn't show its magnificence.
So I think if messenger was to, a man or an institution to show up and tell me about my maker, this is another issue. But for me to go and search for such an institution, such a man, messenger from the maker, requires that I need to have some sort of a notion of a maker in the first place. And in order to have a notion of a maker, there needs to be, even if simplistic, I need to have some sort of a conclusion, a reasoning, saying that this cannot be by itself, there must be a maker. So I guess beauty plays such a role in there. Let's say, in the very simplistic terms, I look at a flower and see that it's beautiful and in order with the birds and the worms and the sun and the moon and everything. And then at the same time, let's say I'm realizing that things are dying. So when I look at the beauty, I am saying that it's beautiful, I enjoy it, there must be a maker. Then tomorrow I see that it's dying, there's this contradiction that I am seeing in there. I'm saying that yes, this must have a maker, but I cannot solve this riddle. So there must be a way that somebody is going to tell me the truth about it. So I will search for a messenger in there. But without that, if I don't have such a starting point, if there is no he for me, he in the sense of huwa in the Quran, then I will look for messenger of such a he. So this is why I was saying that if there is truly no beauty for you, then there wouldn't be any messenger for you. But if there is some sort of a beauty which takes you to the idea of he, then you would say that this he must speak to me, and so on and so forth. But
And just something very quick. When we talk about beauty, like I think that encompasses purpose, order. Obviously, we already talked about love, meaning. So if there was no beauty, you wouldn't also like speak of beauty, like meaning as well. Like, so if there is no meaning, why would you search for the meaning?
And just to put this third point into context, I'm giving a sharp contrast of what this part is saying, as if it implies, if I say this flower is beautiful, then you would reply to me, then Muhammad must be the messenger. And as you speak me speaking, you hear me speaking, this is beautiful, you would say that you really mean it. If you really mean it, then that means Muhammad is the messenger. And this sort of a relation there is between the beauty of a rose and the messengerhood. So his steps are taking us from this very mundane, simple admiration that we show towards a rose versus messengerhood. I'm repeating this because I'm not sure if messengerhood is this much central in my perception or in my daily life. But apparently, according to the author, it is this much related.
See, there's one thing, when you make your last point, I'm, at least me personally, I'm not so certain that you necessarily have to have a huwa first and foremost when speaking of messengership. Because let's say in my situation, I don't have a perception of messengership, of huwa or he, but somebody who claims to be a messenger, presents the universe in such a way that makes me see that there must be a he, a one, and that this one makes this universe in a beautiful way. I can see how messengership is important to this individual, whether he initially subscribes or accepts or has some notion of that there must be a one or not a one. And the reason I say this is because your last point, I don't think, at least in a logical sense, you cannot give preference to there is no God, or God, there is no one but he, and secondary importance to, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. The two are on equal footing in a sense, logically speaking. One looks to and each necessitate the other. So that to me is why messengership of Muhammad, it's a living, breathing entity, and in and of itself can show one the first half of the statement, God, there is no one but he, or there is no source of existence in this universe except a necessarily existent one. So to me, I'm not so sure that you need to accept the first half of the statement first and foremost to accept the second half. Somebody can come to you who says, I'm the messenger, and say, such and such, this is how the universe is. Do you see the universe in this way? And show you how the first half of belief must be true. I don't know, people may disagree, but that's how I see it.
I think you have a point. I just want to add something quick, practically speaking, if somebody comes to me and tells me that I am the messengership of the universe, I am the messenger of the universe, the creator of the universe, and you should follow me, or this is what you should do. I guess my first question would be, okay, what is your evidence for it? It is true that practically speaking, the process may differ, but still when I asked the question, okay, what's your evidence for it? I think the beauty and the perfection in the universe is going to be most likely the stepping stone for the messenger to like prove that he is the messenger.
Any other points, comments?
Yeah, I think Sahil has a point. However, the argument in the third point goes from the beauty to the messenger. So there could be another part in the Risala, perhaps, that goes from the messenger to the beauty, but this is not the place, I thought.
You know, you're right. I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, you're right. This goes from beauty to messengership. But, you know, I almost in a way, I don't want to say messengership is the end all be all, but if one doesn't have messengership in their life, then in a way you cannot speak of, precisely speak of a necessarily existent one. It's really in all respects impossible. And, back to my original point, I don't know if you can speak about eternal beauty or eternal perfection. I mean, it is so necessary that man would not realize his potentiality without this messengership. But I agree with you. It's taking the other side of things. It's rather than what the third point is addressing.
Mohammed Said, I guess you wanted to say something. Your mic was open. The owner.
Sorry. In the messengership in this part of the section 18th word, to me is what I understood from what we read is that the beauty in the universe and my interest in beauty together, practically in my practical life, leaves me with this question that what is this for, really? As it is said before, the beauty implies the wisdom, meaningfulness, and beneficial action and such. So what is this for? And I kind of understand the messengership here is that the speak or the answer to my question. And so the messengership comes together with my interest in beauty and the beauty in the universe, and then what it refers to, and is it now satisfactory for me to see the beauty in the universe, or is it still yes, I am interested in all the happenings and events in the universe and meaningful connections and communications and relationships between the things. But what is this for? And in terms of answering this question, I think messengership, as much as it makes sense, then it becomes beautiful, or it becomes a necessity for me. With the beauty and my interest in the beauty in this existence.
If you understand the messengership like from this perspective, like this is also like I just realized that it is very consistent with the very first command. Read. Like what you like. The command is there to for us to read the beauty in the creation. Just wanted to share that. So like for me at least, like it kind of comes together, like the message, the messengership, universe, and at its core, the beauty and the perfection there. Message is telling me to read that beauty and perfection. Messengership is showing you the showing you the way, showing you how to practice that, like putting that in practice.
In order for you to recognize it as message, the flower is always in front of your eyes. But you need somebody, in this case, somebody comes and says that read it as a book. The universe was in front of the prophet in this story, in this case. Let's go back to the very first revelation. The universe was already in front of him. But recognizing that it is a message to be read, this is something else. It was not a messenger for, it might be the case that the flower is in front of me since the very beginning and speaks to me, but I do not recognize it as a messenger. In order to sit next to the flower and say that, tell me what you are, or I need to recognize it as someone that carries a message to me. This recognition, how does it happen? Yes, practically, somebody comes, a human comes and says that I am the messenger of God. I would say, okay, as you were saying, who is God? What is God? Because there needs to be someone so that you are going to be his messenger. Who is this? I do not know the person that you are talking about in the first place, so that I am going to take you seriously to be a messenger. Whose messenger you are? And if there's no who, then you wouldn't be a messenger of him. But yes, the conversation carries on. Then this man tells me that, yeah, there is such a creator, a maker. And as I make sense of it, then I also make sense of the messenger. So it's not, yes, exclusively one comes before after, but I guess this is more of a logical order maybe, but not that necessary.
Maybe another perspective of the text. I don't know if it somehow conflicts or not, what we discussed so far, but to me, this specific part of the text, I think it's not about how people come up with an idea that there must be a messenger, but it's more about that every human already has a search for the message. And because of the love that you experience, that you can be certain that your desire to receive the message will be fulfilled. This is what I see from the text, rather than how we conclude or how we infer that there must be a messenger or what kind of messenger there should be, so on and so forth. Rather than that, I guess these texts, at least right now, I'm starting to read it that way, it's more like you have a capacity to taste your tongue, this is the example I use, and it is fulfilled. There is something called taste out there, which matches with your capacity to taste. And as a man, you have this yearning, you have this desire to find the message, to make sense of things, regardless of your state. It is always there. And he's saying that, don't you see that whoever creating everything, including you, loves you? To the extent this love necessitates that your biggest desire, that your biggest need, which being spoken, it will be fulfilled. Don't you see that? When you look at the creation, when you look at the beauty, or when you realize that everything being created and everything being taken care of, meaning this desire also is being created and being taken care of. Don't have any doubt about that you will be spoken.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alhamdulillah. So I was looking at this again, like about the love, if you do love God, because in the first 2 points we were establishing that, at least in the first point, that as a person, as a human being, I see that I am made needy. Because the verse that we were studying was more towards that. If you think that you did that, it's not you actually, but you are given all those things. So that established that point, that I am made in such a way that I am a bankrupt person, I am a needy person, and whatever is I think I have is, or what I possess, is actually given to me. And in the second point, right? Okay, so it built upon that further, that since you are given those things, there is a source. But I'm still, as a human being, wondering, okay, why am I given all these things, right? So what is the reason that I am made as a needy person? What is the reason for my existence? What is the reason for this universe as well? And the second point takes me that, whatever you are going through, whatever you see in the universe is made in the best way. Then I will say, okay, so, I have to look at my perception and my, whatever the qualities within me, and say, okay, yeah, these are made in the best way. But again, why? Why is that? Why are they made in the best way? Yeah, they do point to a maker. Yeah, there is a maker that is, okay, doing all these things, who has made the universe, who's made the trees, the plants, the flowers, the human beings, the animals, the plants, whatever. And there are things, seasons are changing, there is rain, there are storms, there are earthquakes, but why again? Why is it that? And here now in the third point, I feel that is saying, okay, so there is a maker, there is a source, there is somebody who is doing all that, but now, do you love that? If you do love this, so to me, it's attracting towards I know that there is a maker, but trying to get this connection with why of the existence part of all these things that are happening, and how this ties into the love for God. And when I read the first sentence again of the third point, it's saying whatever I'm witnessing, whatever I'm seeing in the universe is actually my witnessing the messengership of Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. I mean, this is a pretty bold statement, that the existence of the universe is equal to the messengership of Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. And now this makes me wonder again, how come there's a match being made between that I see this universe and I'm observing all these things. There is beauty, there's art, and I'm realizing that, they are all made in the best way. They are all created. And this is actually me witnessing the messengership. This is what the messengership of Muhammad actually is, to be observing all this. I don't know so if that made any sense, but now this is how I'm seeing how this witnessing of the universe and observing all this ties into the actual messengership. And this messengership now further makes me realize, okay, all your wonderment of why these things are there, there is a very, very good reason. There is a will and a desire. Somebody is trying to communicate with you. That part, although I'm witnessing that, but I still want to know why, what is the reason, what is the purpose behind that? why all this communication going on? Why is everything made in such a perfect way? Why is everything, whatever, they created everything in the best way, that particular verse. And then this is what is going on as a follow-up. Yeah, if you do love God, follow me and God will love you. Yeah, this is, again, going over this particular first sentence again. That's how I was thinking. I don't know if that made sense.
I just want to add something very quick. When we talk about messengership of Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, at the first level at least, I think in the next paragraphs maybe we can discuss that when we get there. It is not just limited with his messengership only. I think messengership as an institution, it is all inclusive, and it includes all the messengers who came with the same message and who were the discloser of the perfection and beauty of the creator of the universe. So let's just establish that messengership as an institution, and then we can discuss maybe in the next paragraphs what it means for Muhammad to be the the utmost fruit of that tree.
So let's keep that in mind while reading the next paragraphs. But now that I'm looking from the first point towards the end of the third point, in the first point, the verse was talking about a state of man which wants to be praised for something that he does not own, did not make. So in this mindset, I am a person in which I want people to love me. This is why I am trying to show off with the things that do not belong to me. I am feeling like I'm going to get satisfied. This is the purpose of my life. If I get this degree, if I get, order food for my friend, this and that, I'm going to be loved. People will like me. This becomes my purpose of life. If I wear this brand of a cloth, whatever. I am looking for self-satisfaction by just elevating myself. In the first point, he took my ego from there, crashed it to the ground, said that you are nothing. The only thing you do is your evil perception. Other than that, you are nothing, he said, practically. In the second one, he started talking about beauty. Everything in the creation is beautiful. Now in the third one, he's taking me from my hand again and raising me up, saying that, okay, you're not that, you don't have to be that miserable. There's a way for you to satisfy this aspect of you, which made you miserable in the first point. Now at the end of third point, saying that, okay, you can be loved. It is a desire for you, which crashed you in the first point. But now I'm going to show you a way to satisfy this same aspect of you, but this time your maker loves you. And this is actually the purpose of your life. If you read your life from this lens, this perspective, which is going to be exemplified to you from the institution of messengerhood and human messengers and human messages, if you like, message in the human form, then you will realize how to live a life in which you are going to satisfy this need. Somebody is going to recognize you. As Birkan was saying, if I'm in a room and I speak, but everybody ignores me, it's going to be the worst thing that you guys can do to me. When I'm speaking, you guys are all busy with your phones and anything. So being ignored. Now in this universe, every flower and everything is being paid utmost attention. Human, the conscious, intellectual being is being ignored. It's such a thing that just crashes us. But now at the end of the third point, it takes us to a point that no, your maker takes you so serious than anything else. He speaks to you. He speaks to men. And if you would like to be spoken to, just look at who he had spoken to. Just be the addressee. Be as conscious as the ones that the maker spoke to, so that the maker can speak to you. Just be cognizant and conscious of the speech that comes to you. Then you will realize that you are being taken seriously, someone, but not only anyone. I mean, the maker is acknowledging you.
But one small addition. In the first approach, you want to be praised because you want to, you have that claim to be godlike, if you like. And the messengership is telling you that that's not really what you are for. Yes, you are valuable, but your value is not your self claims and illusionary claims that you think that you have, the perfection or beauty that you think you have. It's because your value comes from your being worshipper of the Creator. And I think that's why he talks about the sphere of the omnikalata, the sphere of the worshiping. I think there he positions you as a man to in a position that you have this loving relationship with your maker, but with an obedience and submission, and taking the position of being a worshiper rather than an rivalry of the Creator.
I had a slightly different understanding of this based on your summaries. So I thought that in the first one, the first point, the reader gets convinced that he or she shouldn't exalt in what he is able to do or he or she has done. So the corollary of wanting to be exalted or praised is that other things or other beings are not to be praised, meaning that there is not everything is beautiful. If I am to be praised for what I've done or for my qualities, that means that there are other things that are contrary to this, so I stand out. And so to me, the first point looks like we are being convinced that that's not the case, and that as you said, I don't have anything for being praised. And in the second point, that there isn't anything. So in the first point, what I think about myself is not true. And the second point, what I think about the outside world is not true. So it's all vice versa, the other way around. So I don't have anything, but everything is beautiful. So in a sense, I am being given all this beauty, right? So I find myself, if I am convinced of all this, then suddenly I find myself in a place of complete surprise, a state of bewilderment. Wow, I was thinking this way, but in essence, I am the receiving end of all beauty. So what can I do? So I say, of course, I will love beauty, and I will love the one who gives me beauty. But then what do I do? What do I do? Because in me is the sense that I should reciprocate, right? And it is then that the author says that, okay, you want to do that, then look for the one, because there has to be a messenger who has performed what is necessary to be deserving of his love, right? So coming to what I got at the beginning of third point is that the person is completely convinced that it's all beautiful and I have to do something. How do I reciprocate? That's what I thought this whole scenario played out.
Jazakallah khair. So I will read from the part I learned. And this will and desire shows that the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination. Say that, sorry, you corrected the word.
Sacred.
Sacred? Okay, thank you. And this will and desire shows that the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination towards the perfection of the art he displays in his creatures. The will and desire shows that the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination towards the perfection of art he displays in his creatures. I guess, yes, we can discuss the steps we take, how these points are connected to each other. But to me, this sentence is so valuable. Because, like, regardless of your past experiences, what conclusions you arrived, I guess this desire not to be alone or not to be by yourself or desire to be loved, it's always with you. It doesn't matter, what kind of person you are, doesn't matter what state in your journey you are. I guess this desire to be loved is always with you. Maybe I'm saying that because I'm single, but I'm sure it's same for everyone. Like, we don't want to be alone. And not only being with someone who loves us. Even when I hear such thing, it's like make my heart, pump faster. And he says, when you look at the creation, when you look at how things being taken care of, just the fact that they are being created, and it doesn't matter if you love the look of a flower or not. Even a flower dying, the way it dies, the order in this, death, everything taken care. Like sometimes you look at a painting, for instance, like it doesn't appeal you aesthetically, the colors, whatever, but you still appreciate the painting. You say, the painter did a great job. You see the order, you see how colors come together. You see the story there. I guess same thing goes with you as well. When you realize that you are being created every single moment, and all these moments connected to each other, like there is a story of you. Somebody writing a story of you. Isn't that so, isn't that so powerful? That you are not alone. There's a pen constantly behind you, like writing you. It's not like, there's a machine producing you. No. The hand is always with you. The brush is always, on your hair. Even when they go away. They don't go away themselves. Somebody takes them one by one.
So, the maker possesses an elevated love and sacred inclination towards the perfection of the art. So, one can conclude that this is true. Like the one who makes the flower must love the flower, right? Otherwise, why would the artist make the art? So you see that the artist has love toward its art. So I also want that. I also want to be loved. I also want this artist, this great artist, to love me too. But the difference between the flower and me is I have free will. And the question is, how will I use my free will? I am in search of the best way to use my free will to position myself in a way that he will love me the most. because the flower doesn't have free will to position itself, but I do. And so how do I do it? That's when I try to find the person who has figured this out. There has to be one who has figured this out and who can teach me. So I have to use my free will to follow that person.
Yeah, I want to add, tying in a few points that, the messengership, at least according to the verse, is in relation to love of, or mutual or reciprocal love. And that's how, in a way, he's defining messengership, is that it exists to show you this or to unveil this for you. For nothing other than this, as Birkan was saying, how, the artist is drawing you or painting you. There is an absolute power and will behind your existence in every moment. And who knows you, knows what you wish for and hope for and desire. And in a way, this is what messengership is it's uncovering this truth for you. That was one point I wanted to make. And then the other thing was, kind of what you guys were all saying earlier, how the ego is crushed as he explains in the earlier points. In a way, your understanding of messengership, your expectation, is in accordance, I think, with how much of an egocentric worldview do you have? If you see if you see messengership, if you see the world existing on account, I'm saying the extreme example, on account of itself for its own sake, then you would deny messengership. If you don't necessarily say that, but you say, oh, the universe must be made, but what I do is on account of myself. I'm responsible. I have these perfect qualities. Maybe then you'll see the messenger as some sort of, hero or, figurative leader, historical saint, who is better than everyone else on his own account, just like you yourself see yourself as being great on your own account. But if you see that you are infinitely needy and impoverished, you cannot fulfill anything that you desire, even though you have these, infinite needs, then you will see messengership as an entity or an institution that will show you that these things, this condition that you're in, is being given to you to show that you are loved, that he will take care of, or that he does take care of you, and that he will take care of you even after you depart from this world. So to me, that there's a matching between the egotism or the egocentrism of man and his conception of messengership.
So thank you very much for pointing that out. Just a small addition. I think, as far as I understand, that is the main difference between actually the Judaism and the Christianity. Because on the surface level, what I understand Judaism to be the religion of rituals, in a way that almost they attribute some sort of value to the ritual itself. And the main mission of Jesus was to teach people that it is not the rituals that has some sort of inherent value. It is your understanding of rituals and how you use them to get connected with Creator. So the reason why I wanted to mention that it is very valid that like we may also have that attitude that like we attribute some sort of value to ourselves, be very selfish and egocentric, and so that like we will attribute also values to our own rituals, which would put us like in the position of the I guess like I would say Jewish understanding of religion in a way.
Any other points?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. You know, I think how generally people view, let's say, Muhammad, they view him as a, they don't view him as being, one can say, oh, he's a messenger of God, but no one really understands what that really means, what that fundamentally means. Because in, you know, common discourse language, people speak about him, as you said, in the same way, speaking about a ritual. It's something external to man. He exists externally as some sort of, you know, figurative being. And he has really no impact on one's life. He's there to almost make yourself feel good about yourself. That, oh, this man, he's a part of my religion. And he's this great man who somehow, I don't quite understand how, but he changed society and changed the world for as we know it. But that doesn't mean anything for that individual. It's simply a point of pride, an egoistic pride, rather than having any sort of fundamental impact in one's day-to-day life.
And this love and inclination require to be most turned towards and concentrated on man, the most enlightened and perfect individual among beings. The most enlightened and perfect individual among beings. And man is the conscious fruit of the tree of creation. And man is the conscious fruit of the tree of creation. And the fruit that is comprehensive and the furthest part. And I guess the fruit which is the most comprehensive. I guess there's something wrong with my text. Anyway,
The most comprehensive.
yeah, the most comprehensive fruit and the furthest part, the part with the most general view and universal consciousness. What I understand from that is, once we experience that everything in front of us, the creation being taken care of, being an addressee of a message, then when we look at ourselves, when we look at our desires, needs, which are compared to other creatures, I guess, endless, limitless, and the different ways that we can make sense of the reality. I can smell, taste, see, but other than that also, I can infer things about the reality. The connections that I have as a human being with the reality, going so like a further beyond everything else I realize, everything else I see, I experience. Like compared to sun, the stone, animals, plants. So I have like so rich connection with the reality. Or once I realize that everything being created, I have endless capacities to know the creator. Like all these different names are in front of me. And I have all these connections with them. Like I suffer, for instance, illness. Like maybe a plant, I don't know, it doesn't suffer. Meaning I can appreciate the health. I can know the creator with his name of Shafi. I can get cold, right? I was so cold today, walking from the work to home. But it's like when you think about it, it's really amazing that you can feel the cold. Like you can have this connection with the wind or the air, that you are freezing. This is something so amazing, that you have this feeling. So you can know your creator as the creator of the cold, or as the creator of the heat. So your channel, your connections with the creator of everything you see is so rich. And this channel needs to be fulfilled. Somebody needs to speak from the other end of this channel. You wait for that. As you feel the cold, you wait for someone to talk to you. Like, I'm the creator of the cold. You have this desire, to be spoken about your feeling the cold. It shouldn't be just wasted.
I think all these are there, like all the experiences. Like the keyword is the consciousness. Conscious fruit of the tree of creation. So if there was no consciousness, then everything that we talked about goes down to technically non-existence as far as you are concerned, because there is no awareness of it.
I guess for example, let's assume you hate the cold. That means you have a conscious relationship with the cold. Right? You take it as an addressee of your emotions. You hate it. Like, you wouldn't hate something if you hadn't had a conscious relationship. So deep down, you know that whoever creates this cold can speak to you. Even if
should address your consciousness as well.
Yeah. Deep down, you already know that. And this hatred is the manifestation of this desire. Otherwise, why would you hate the air or the cold? You mistakenly kick the table, for instance, and you hate table. It doesn't make sense, does it? It's just sitting there. But you hate because deep down you know that it's being created, your experience being created. And you have this conscious relationship with the reality. That you have emotions against it or for it. The fact that you hit a table and then have the pain and then hate it, this system. It's so amazing. It's not just, simple thing. I had hit my leg and it's hurting. You hate it. This is so conscious. You're talking with the table. You're talking with your pain. Or you're waiting to be spoken about your pain. As if a child, falls down, hurt, and wait for the mother comes and ask, oh, did you hurt? We wait for that. We want to be addressed.
Yeah, a materialist or a really egocentric worldview, you can't really speak of those things because you're really just, a pound of flesh and bone. You cannot speak about human emotion, as you said. It is, miraculous that one can have a conscious reaction or relationship, feeling, viewpoint towards something that he or she experiences in the world itself. But I wanted to say one thing. I think in this form of this notion of messengership, it's as if almost that I mean, you use the word hating the cold. You know, I would almost say maybe it's not something you prefer or you dislike, but in a way you're satisfied with it because it's a communication from your maker. And I think that's why messengership is so vital, because the messengers themselves, they were very comfortable with their existence or how, in what position they were placed, because they see the universe as a divine message or a communication to be read. And I think this is what makes messengership so important and really, miraculous, is that they can take something, as you said, as the cold, and they can turn it into a communicative experience, rather than something to say that, oh, I dislike the cold, I hate the cold. That's, in a way, that's a horizontal relationship. It doesn't mean anything in and of itself. It's a waste of one's consciousness. But turning it into a vertical relationship or communication with the creator of that experience, communicating with you, it becomes less about your response to the cold, but how he communicates with you through that experience.
A very good point indeed. I totally agree. Like just as an example, today I was walking from work to home, like freezing, alhamdulillah. But like usually, when I walk to home, my mind is always occupied with work-related stuff. And nowadays I don't enjoy it that much. I always try to avoid it, but I cannot. But today, maybe because it was so cold, it was much easier. I'm not just, saying that, because I was cold, I was not able to think. But no, when I was walking in the cold weather, and when I realized that I can sense this cold weather, not only just, with my fingers, or like my entire body was there. Most of the time I forget that I have a body. But in the cold weather, it is so easy to remind yourself that you have a hand, that you have a wrist, that you have an elbow. Right? Your entire arm is there. You can feel it. Right? It's speaking to you. Once you start taking it as a speech, that Birkan, I'm giving you your body, your senses, and I'm making you freeze. And once you seriously, once you take it that way, whether it is cold or something else, it doesn't matter. When it makes you connect with your creator, you enjoy it. You say, Alhamdulillah, now I'm alive. All these days when my mind was occupied with things that I don't even care, I was not alive. But today I am alive because I am receiving this message. It's a speech. It doesn't bother you. Yes, you're still freezing, but it's not something you hate anymore. It's something that make you have a conscious being. So metaphorically speaking, cold keeps you fresh. And literally speaking as well.
Can I add something?
Go ahead, please.
This is maybe a little bit irrelevant, or maybe side comments to the discussion, but in a sense it is very relevant too. That goes back to the Sayyid's points about historicizing the prophet, which for people like us who come from a certain background, that's very easy to fall into the trap. A few months ago, I was having a discussion with someone who is coming from a Muslim background, and
Yusuf?
no, it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
Yusuf.
He's the only one from the background I know.
And the topic was about the messengership. Somehow we were talking about the messengership, and he said something about Prophet Muhammad, that he lived in a time that there was no enlightenment in terms of the mankind. So in that sense, he was very backward, and he was Bedawi. I don't know what is in English, Bedawi. Bedouin. So he's a Bedouin, and he wasn't Medani, he wasn't civilized. So for him to understand the message that he delivered wasn't really possible because he was Bedouin and he wasn't civilized. But why he's so important in the in the religion of Islam, because he was so trustworthy that he was the only worthy person to receive the message, because since he was so trustworthy, he wouldn't distort the message. That's the only reason why he received the message.
Astaghfirullah. Why you are...
Don't hang out with such people.
So now, reading this and listening to the discussions, I can see why would someone come to that conclusion if he doesn't have the understanding of messengership in the way that is presented in this topic. But and at the same time, the problem with that understanding of messengership, it is just only the person and the quality of the person being the trustworthy and historicized, and if you locked up in the Saudi Arabia in 14 centuries ago, that absolutely has no relevance to my life today. I cannot relate with that kind of messenger whatsoever. Because we come from so different backgrounds, different geography, different experiences. He would have he wouldn't be a guide. He wouldn't be related. I wouldn't be able to relate myself to his experiences. Then what is the point of having a messengership in my life?
Oh, there is one comment from Faraz or Isra. It would be nice if we focus more on positive than to spend time on the negative.
Thank you very much for the comments. But in order for us, especially people coming from that kind of background, we really need to understand where the traps that we can fall into. This is not about criticizing people. This is about us and where are the potential dangers that we may fall into.
That's true. So I would ask the final comments and remarks or questions, because we need to close the discussion in a few minutes. So if anyone who hasn't spoken yet wants to share something, this is the time. Please go ahead. Or even from the people who have spoken, any comments or questions are welcome.
I want to say one last thing is that Nursi here, I don't think he's making he's not saying the messenger or any messenger is superior to an individual. Rather, he's saying, as we've said, as a living guide, can you see the qualities of prophecy within you? Or in other words, can you realize your potentiality like as this guide of yours is doing or has done? Because you yourself possess the same potentiality within you. Whether you realize it or not, it's another matter. But how much that messengership is in your life is to the degree in which you see those qualities within yourself. If you just see it, once in a while, or when maybe you think you need something, then that's, to me, the degree to which messengership is present in your life. But if you take messengership and see it as a complete worldview, whether in what you perceive to be good or bad, or mundane or exciting, then that is how important messengership is for that individual. And then everything, I know we didn't read this, but the last line of that paragraph, who will expend his universal consciousness and comprehensive view entirely on the worship of his maker, the appreciation of his art, and offering thanks for his bounties. That is the potentiality of man. It's not really about the messenger himself, but it's about what is man capable of doing, what is an individual capable of doing. He can, it's quite difficult, that's why I guess man is given years to work on this in his life. But you can see yourself as being the fruit of the tree of creation, possessing this consciousness to encompass the meaning of the universe and comprehensively worship the maker of that universe, appreciate his art, thank him. And to me, this is really the manifestation of messengership in one's life. How much do you see that within yourself?
Let's conclude, inshallah.
سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة.